In many jobs, the hardest workers are often the least pretentious. There is certainly no glamour when wearing a blue collar, just a get on and get it done attitude, which is precisely the character and work ethic of these three finalists for our best 4x2 work ute category in the 2019 Drive Commercial Car of the Year Awards.
Our carryover champion in this category is the Toyota Hilux Workmate. Tested last year in its most affordable specification with a trusty old school petrol 4-cylinder engine. It's honest, humble and hard-working. A genuine workmate. This year it returns with a 2.4 litre turbo diesel engine and a higher price tag, and its challenges include the updated Ford Ranger XL and the all-new Mitsubishi Triton GLX. Our expert judges put them to the test in a series of simulated emergency exercises at Wakefield Park just outside of Goulburn, and drove them with and without a load in the tray, a full 1 tonne of weight for this category, out on the open road, assessing their dynamic capabilities. On paper, the Ranger has the numbers covered. Its 2.2 litre turbo diesel produces the highest outputs of 118 kilowatts and 385 newton metres, and with an average fuel consumption of 6.5 litres per 100 k's, is the most efficient of this trio. However, it is the nicest to drive, without a load in the back. Its steering is well weighted, the transmission is slick, the engine is grunty, the suspension has a nice level of compliance over rough surfaces, and the seats are comfortable, while it performed the best of these three in the emergency exercises, all of which make it an easy machine to work with. But, and it is a big one, the Ranger is hardly as convincing with a full tonne in the tray. The steering loses its precision, the rear end bounces and it skips across the road when it hits a mid-corner bump. It's almost like Ford tuned it to impress during the test drive, but not so much on the work site. In the end, it unanimously scored third place votes from the judges. The Hilux, on the other hand, put up a strong defence. At $24,990 plus on roads, the diesel Workmate isn't as cheap as last year's petrol-powered champion, but it does bring with it a stronger, more efficient motor and a higher 1210 kilo payload capacity. The 2.4 litre 4-cylinder delivers 110 kilowatts and 343 newton meters, and amplified by its ultra-low gearing in the 6-speed manual transmission, it feels super strong. But it is significantly noisier and not as refined as the Ranger's smaller engine. The Hilux is also a little busier out on the open road, the suspension jiggling over bumps more, while the steering isn't as fluid and the manual transmission isn't as positive to shift through. Nor is it as convincing in the safety exercises, as the power steering binds up in tight turns and it took longer to stop from highway speeds. However, it was much better than the Ranger when fully loaded. Sure, the front and rear suspension does feel a little out of kilter, the car bouncing like an emu after hitting a large bump, and the steering provides a constant reminder that it isn't communicating with the road as clearly. But ultimately, it didn't feel as spooky. While that was enough for one judge to give it the top vote, the Hilux did drop back onto the second step of the podium.
This was a really tough category in the end because all three finalists are great at doing what they're meant to do, a simple workhorse for a big job. But in the end, the 2019 Mitsubishi Triton is our best 4x2 work ute of the year. Ultimately, the Triton's cabin is a little Spartan, a little grey, and a little outdated in its design compared to its rivals, but it does feel like it'll live a lifetime of hard work on the road. And it does have a few nice modern features, such as this touchscreen in the top of the centre console, and uniquely the Triton is the only one of these three that comes with a centre armrest, which is nice for when you're driving, but also to keep valuables out of sight when you're parked. There's also two decent sized cup holders in the centre console and a nice tray at the base of the dash to keep your mobile phone stored. As for the seats, they are nice and supportive. They're pretty comfy for long journeys, and in this high rider spec you have a commanding view of the road ahead.
The Triton is the cheapest of this trio, costing from $22,490, and the only one of our contenders with a petrol engine and a 5-speed manual transmission. The 2.4 litre 4-cylinder, which generates 94 kilowatts and 194 newton meters, has been around for generations. And while it isn't as powerful or as efficient as its competitors, it does feel bulletproof and dependable, and that is important here.
That engine compared to a diesel engine does need to be worked really, really hard. but it is more than adequate for the job because it certainly labours along pretty well. It's reasonably quiet while cruising, but pretty raucous when you get into it. But it is helped along by this 5-speed manual gearbox, which is pretty slick in the way that it operates and has a really low gear ratio set. So that works in its favour when it doesn't have a load on and you're just driving it around town, because it feels reasonably sprightly and keeps up with the traffic. But when you do have a full payload on the back, that makes that engine feel a little less strained. As for the suspension, well, again, it feels like it's made for a load, so it is a little bit stiff when you don't have anything in the back of it. The steering is quite responsive and it's more than livable every day. But the thing that really sealed the deal for the Triton is the way that it carried a full payload. With a ton in the tray, this thing was the most confidence-inspiring car of the 3 finalists. The steering remained true, it carried the weight really solidly, the rear suspension didn't hit the bump stops too often. This thing definitely feels like it's built for a job. All 3 judges felt the other 2 cars were a little compromised when they were carrying their full payload, but not this one. Yes, the Triton feels like it's from another era, but at the same time, this is the kind of car that you need to trust implicitly when you're carrying a full load. And for that, it absolutely nails the brief. It's so secure when carrying a full ton in the tray that is what won at the class. If anything, the Triton is totally unpretentious, but ultimately, it is the hardest working ute in this class.
And that's why the Mitsubishi Triton GLX is the best 4x2 work ute for 2019 in the Drive Commercial Car of the Year Awards.
The 2019 Drive Commercial Car of the Year Awards are proudly presented by BP Plus.
With over 1,400 sites across Australia, BP provides a premium fuel network to keep your business moving.
With BP Plus, vehicle operators and business owners have a fuss-free solution to conveniently manage their fuel costs, whether it's a single vehicle or a nationwide fleet. With quick and easy ways to pay for fuel, simple to use online tools and comprehensive reports. BP Plus card members can also choose to pay using the BP Me phone app, which allows users to pay at the pump and simply drive away.
It also means you don't need to remember your odometer number. Simply input it into the app. It's quick and simple and keeps your business on the road rather than standing in line. With a host of convenient online services and customizable reports, BP Plus also saves time back in the office too. For more information, visit bpplus.com.au and apply for your own BP Plus card today.